Welcome to DAX Machina, with your hosts, Naoma Finn, Steve Wildman Munrotis, and D.A. Roberts. Join us as we explore writing, books, authors, and all things horror. We will delve into the sightings, reports, encounters, and tales of monsters. We will also explore the writings of D.A. Roberts along with others in the horror genre. We will investigate the possibilities that monsters may not be safely locked away in the pages of books. They might just walk among us even now. Grab some popcorn and lock the doors. It's going to be a creepy journey. Welcome to DAX Machina.
Good evening, folks, and thank you for joining us here on DAX Machina on the Wednesday edition. Joining me on the Wednesday night is my usual partner in crime, Naoma Finn. Naoma, how you doing?
Just this side of wonderful. And you?
I'm doing well. And joining us in the studio tonight is my good friend, Carrie Pocket Doc Davis, and Rob from Michigan, from Bigfoot Michigan. Rob, the YouTube channel, is going to be here tonight telling us about some of his experiences within the Bigfoot world up in Michigan. So we are definitely thrilled to have him. Doc, how the hell are you?
Wyatt, I am rolling.
our little standard joke. I'm glad you're feeling better, brother. It's been almost a couple weeks since we had you on.
Yeah. I felt like I've been ate by a wolf and crapped over a cliff.
Well, I'm glad
as long as he didn't drag you across the carpet.
I think he did. I think he might have.
Well, we're glad you're feeling better and back with us, brother.
Thanks, man. Good to be back.
Rob, you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, sure. My name's Rob. Again, of course, which you already mentioned. A lot of people out there in the Bigfoot community know me as Bigfoot Michigan Rob or BMR, and I do a podcast with text called Trinity Paracryptid Research, and I'll get in a little bit of that. It's how the Bigfoot encounters what led me to this world that we call podcasting, to get the information out to people. So I've been doing that for about over a year and a half. The channel up for 3 years, and I'm not a Bigfoot researcher per se, and we'll get into that when I talk about the encounter. Get back out in the field maybe in spring. But I'm from Michigan. I worked 20 years at Ford Motor Company. Then I was fortunate enough to retire there because I got in when I was in my early 20s out of college. And then I went and bought myself a bar. I owned the bar for about 13 years. And then I sold that prior to COVID, which I'm not a prognosticator, but I sold it 3 months prior to the big down in 2020. So I kind of consider myself lucky with that. And so I've been able to full-time go into further research and developing our podcasts and talking out to the wonderful people in the Bigfoot cryptid community. And it's a pleasure for me to join you folks here today on your show.
Well, we're glad to have you, man. I've been checking out some of the videos on your channel, and I'm really getting into them. And folks, if you haven't had a chance, I posted the links to his two YouTube channels in the chat. So make sure you guys go over and give those a like and a subscribe, show them a little love. And if any of y'all are here from the Bigfoot Odyssey channel that I was on earlier tonight, I want to welcome you guys and hope you guys will hit that like and subscribe and join us. We're glad to have all y'all in the house tonight. Rob, you want to start in telling us about your first encounter with Bigfoot?
Yeah, sure. I had one encounter, but I tell you what, it is quite a doozy. In fact, the encounter that I had, this was June 2018. And before I get into the encounter, it set me for a big loop. I was traumatized for a long time. I suffered from PTSD, and it's funny you mentioned I saw you're on Bigfoot Odyssey today, and Kerry Arnold was one of the guys that I reached out to, and he kind of assured me that I'm going crazy. Yeah, he is really great when I can, and since it's been about 3 years, well, 3.5 years since I've gotten into the community since my encounter, and a lot of great people. And what I do today is a reason, because of the community and because of what happened to me, to spread that word that they're out there and you're not alone. And all these cool channels that come out is a safe place for people to go to talk, kind of like
Absolutely.
a therapy session, but anyways, again, thanks for having me. And this is June 2018. And girlfriend at the time and we had never gone really walking on the trails in the woods or gone fishing. So I set up a fishing, just go fishing with me and my girl out in Cadillac, Michigan. It was Lake Cadillac, and that's in Manistee National Forest. So I kind of surprised her, said, "Hey, honey, we're going up north." For what? I said, "We're gonna do some fishing." She's like, "Oh man," she's not really an outdoorsy type, but I said, "Look, you got to do this at least once for me." So okay, so I talked her into it, and I rented a small little bass boat, not a very big one, just maybe a 12, 15 footer with a little 50 horsepower engine on it, towed it up there and got settled in. And we proceed today on Lake Cadillac. And started the day out around 8, 9 in the morning, finally got on the water. Doing some fishing along the shore, excuse me. And it's funny because in Lake Cadillac, around the lake itself, it's built up. A lot of beautiful homes, there's businesses laid up amongst it, and just a great scenic area. We weren't getting any bites fishing, so I'm exploring Lake Cadillac, and it's a huge lake. I can't give you the acreage or how big it is. It's big. You can't see from one end to the next. You can, but it's a distance. So I came upon this canal which connected another lake, which was called Lake Mitchell. Lake Mitchell, not as big as Lake Cadillac, but it was sizable, and not as many homes. I'm not going to call the area desolate, but it was a lot more open space, and this backed up really back into the forest where we looked on the northwestern edge of this lake. It's nothing but dense forest. So that's where I decided to take the boat down to. So we're kind of drifting maybe 90 feet out from shore, and I'm just, my girlfriend's listening to music or whatever she's doing, and I grab our fishing tackle and I go about setting up our lures, putting on our bait, getting it all set up. So my girlfriend all of a sudden says to me, "Hey Rob, I think someone's throwing rocks at our boat." And I'm like, "Okay." I just kind of brushed it off, like, okay. I kind of take a look up. I see nothing. All I see is water. And then I see shoreline, and I see the depth of the trees, the forest. So I kind of brushed it off. I go about doing my own business, setting up the rod and reel. And then again, her name's Cindy, by the way. And she says, "Hey, I just seen a couple of rocks splash in front of the boat here." Now I did kind of hear a splash, but I'm thinking some small fish jumping around, bait fish, whatever, small bluegill, whatever the case may be. Again, I look up, I see anything, and so I kind of again just settle down. Let me get the lines, the lures set up, and then we can both enjoy the day. So maybe 30, 40 seconds after she made mention of this, I look up in the sky and I see something tumbling from the sky coming down. I look up, I'm like, "What in the heck is that?" Splashes maybe 12 feet in front of the boat, and now I know this is a rock. And I'm thinking, I look at her to say, "Wow, you weren't kidding." But as I look at Cindy, her face is affixed straight ahead at the shoreline. And this is the middle of the summer. She had a nice little tan going. I noticed her face, like all the color just drained out of her face. she looked like a ghost. And so I kind of looked towards shore, and I see this, this beast, this creature. Now, again, when I like to say something, when I talk about this story, I'm telling it as my first impression 3.5 years ago. Today, my impressions are different. We can talk about maybe after the story, just to let you all know out there, because I don't call them a beast or a creature today. But it looked like a creature. A beast. And I look at this thing transfixed. It had to be about 8.5, 9 foot tall. It was reddish and brown hair, shaggy hair. The face was a grayish face. And again, I don't mean to say this for people. I mean, the person looked like a human with Down syndrome. So I apologize for anybody, but that's just what it looked like. It had offset eyes. And again, I'm 90 feet from shore. I'm getting a pretty good look at this thing. And I'm like, wow. So as I'm processing this information, it raises both its arms for its side out, kind of planing parallel to the water. And it drops its mouth. When it drops its mouth, I see his teeth. They're like kind of, I'm not going to call them fangs, or remind me of like a Doberman pinscher, maybe a set of canine teeth, a couple of scissors maybe in the center moving up. But when he drops his mouth, it opens up, it's in gaping, and he lets out this screech, this yell, guttural sound comes from his mouth, from the shoreline, without even moving its lips. And this booming sound, I can feel a rush of like a shock wave or something hitting to me, which later on, doing some research and talking to other researchers, maybe I was hit with infrasound. But I got struck, my girlfriend was struck as well. She falls off the back of the boat. But prior to this, when it opened its mouth in that gaping fashion, the face metamorphosized. It changed. It looked like it went from that Down syndrome looking person into something that was like demonic. I mean, it looked like something out of a Marvel comic book. My girl falls off the side of the boat. Now I'm standing there. I hear her hit the water. But I'm looking at this thing. I'm still transfixed to shore, and my body is frozen. It's like I can't move to the right. I wanted to turn right, but I couldn't. It was like frozen. I mean, everything looked like a filter through the lens of my eyes. Looked like, I don't want to say black and white, but it was very dull. And I started shaking my head, trying to snap out of it. I finally did. Regained my composure, got her in the boat. And I'm trembling. I'm scared. She is petrified. I get her in to the boat. Now I look towards shore, and this is when I was most scared. When I look at it's gone. So I just, get the boat turned around, and I make a beeline. I open up the throttle on the boat, and I zip across Lake Mitchell all the way to the canal through Lake Cadillac. Dock the boat. Put a blanket on her, try to get her warm. And mind you, it's like 80 degrees and she's still shivering. I'm shivering, but I'm more scared than anything. And get her warmed up, and I go find we find a little bar restaurant. We go to the bar of the restaurant. We go in the back corner of this place, and my girl at the time, she doesn't drink, right? She orders a Jack Daniels and a Bud Light. I get the same. We don't say anything to each other. We wait for our drinks to arrive. She goes, "Honey, what do you think that was?" I says, "You know what? I don't know." She goes, "Well, I think that was like a Bigfoot." And it's funny because she and I never discussed Bigfoot. I was dating for about 4 years at this time. We never talked about Bigfoot or anything like that. I had always been interested in the subject. In fact, I saw the Patterson-Gimlin film as a kid. I might have read a book on it. And I said, yeah, I think you might be right. So she was like, well, should we report it to the DNR, call the authorities, the local authorities at least? I'm sitting there and I'm like, we're going to look kind of foolish, or is people going to believe us or whatever. So we kind of cut the trip short, and we went home. So when we got home, we just started getting immersed in the subject, looking things up and this and that, and trying to figure out what was this that we seen. Because, when you see when I look at the Patterson-Gimlin film, it's like, of course, it didn't really look like that. It looked a lot more of the human, but then it looked differently when it yelled and screamed at us, so I couldn't put my thumb on it. And again, I got with a few researchers, and, I have some more clarity on it today. But the thing you guys that got me was after 2 months later, after this happens, my girlfriend, she passed away on me. She died after the encounter. So that totally, I just lost it. I was blaming this creature I seen, which
I'm sorry,
today
man.
I know, thank you. Which today, I don't believe that was the case, but I just associated Bigfoot with the devil, 2 months after, and I started having all these negative vibes about it. It's been 3.5 years. I've talked to a lot of great people. I mentioned Carrie. I don't know, like mentioned Tex, where we do our show with. Today, I'm good. I don't think that Bigfoot killed my girlfriend. I know a lot more today than I ever knew 3.5 years ago. So I'm at peace with that today, at least knowing that what happened was for a reason. It wasn't because of the encounter, because I felt so guilty. I thought, man, if I didn't take her on this fishing expedition, this wouldn't have happened. And today I don't believe that. I think fate is fate and things happen for a reason. But that's the thing that got me in that tailspin. So I was immersed in the subject, and that's where we are today, doing today.
You're right. That is a doozy of a story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The infrasound affects people in such odd ways. I'm really glad that it didn't affect her bad enough that she would have drowned right there on the spot. But I'm sorry to hear about her passing. My heart's out to you, brother.
Yeah, same.
Thank you guys. It's like, that's why, I always say it's a terrible story. It's not so much seeing Bigfoot, it's what happened after. And again, I qualify this as I don't think that was the reason that she, passed, but it's hard to, every time I think about the encounter now, I know about what happened 8 weeks later, so it's kind of, they go hand in hand now for me.
Yeah.
So every time I talk about it, I'm brought up about, it's like DA and the rest of you guys, Naoma and Carrie. I don't even really like to tell my encounter story so much. I've told it 50 times. And it's like, okay, it's out there. People know about it. It's like every time I talk about it, just brings up that memory, right? Not so much the Bigfoot, but the memory of us. So,
Yeah.
But, I'll do it maybe once every 6 months just to do it. Because I think, again, it's good therapy. And like I say, when we do our show, we talk to people that have encounters. We talk to different researchers. And for me, it's just, it helps me as much as it helps our audience and our viewers. So it's a great thing. I'm glad I stumbled upon what we do today. And so upon selling my bar, I'm good to go. And this is kind of this spring, I think I'm going to be hitting boots on the ground too. So to really get deep up with this, because I think that it's going to be my calling here moving forward.
Yeah, I plan to do a lot more boots on the ground this year than I have in previous years. Now that the big sea is starting to let up, I'm going to be able to do a lot more mobility. We had a good time this year when we went and filmed an LBL, and I want to do a lot more of that. I'm gathering more equipment and starting to get a lot more accounts sent my direction. So I see us hitting the field a lot this year. And I'm pretty excited about it. In fact, I want to get out hopefully this summer, get out to Colorado, and go up explore that camp with Doc. There's a old Girl Scout camp where they've had Wendigo sightings.
Oh wow,
Wow.
that'd be interesting.
No snowmobiles.
You know, I've
though,
got a
PA.
couple.
No snowmobiles.
No. You know, here in Michigan, we have such a, especially north of me. I live in a suburb outside of Detroit. For me to hit the woods, you're going 30 minutes. Someplace, where it's at least thick and deep. But northern Michigan is a great exploring area, and I'm also into the, the shipwrecks and haunted light towers we have and restaurants. This the old history of Michigan. And my friend Tex, who lives in Texas, his research area is somewhere in Brown Springs, and I like to go visit that because he's got not only Bigfoot in that area, but he's got a lot of paranormal activity. It's very strange, and I like to hit Montana. Another guy who helps me out quite a bit is a guy by the name of Duke Sullivan. He's got a World Bigfoot Radio. I like to go check out his place, his research area, because we've spoken up Montana, Mizzaloo, I think it is. So yeah, it's this is the year I think I'd like to hit it, because like I say, I'm kind of, I don't want to call myself retired because I'm not, but after getting rid of the bar now, I got time on my hands now for a little bit, so
Nice.
I'm ready to roll.
Well, hey Rob, I'm up in I come up to the Luther Chase area about 3-4 times a year and teach classes up in that area. So if you're ever around and I'm around at the same time, I'd like to link up with you.
Great. Well, we can exchange information for sure.
Yeah.
The cool thing about being involved in the Bigfoot community is, I got a handful of my friends. My friends don't even, one friend knows that I do a podcast, and the same friend don't believe my story, yet I'm supposed to believe his ghost stories, but that's okay. So half my family friends don't know. So half my friends and family don't know that I do this. But all the people in the community, man, I totally love. I got more friends out of this community that I've gotten from people that I've known since I was 13 years old. And there's nothing against my friends. They just don't have these beliefs. See, I don't say I'm a believer anymore. Yeah. I'm a knower. I know it's there. So there's nothing you can say or do to me that they don't exist, because they do. And That's right. It's not a bear that I saw. I've seen a bear. There's totally very distinct characteristics.
Yeah, bears don't generally have a face that looks like a person with Down syndrome.
No.
They don't tend to walk well on their back legs.
No. I was about to say,
and I've never had a bear throw
because
rocks at my boat.
Yeah.
And I don't believe bears have thumbs, right?
Well, not last time I checked.
Hey, but you know what?
Only one is Yogi the bear.
Yeah, and
although I did see one drive by on a motorcycle doing this once.
Yeah.
Just back in my druggy days.
Hey, but and you know what too? It's just funny, DA, you mentioned about bears can't really stand upright. I mean, I was watching a bear standing upright. I guess some guy had some bait up in the air, and I mean, they're just standing up. I mean, he looked like he was drunk. And they can't walk. I mean, you can tell they're wobbling all over. I mean, it's come on. We all know. I mean,
For the most part, if a bear gets on its hind legs, it's to look bigger, to intimidate something, to either as a threat, or to try to scare it off. But generally, other than that, unless they're trying to reach food that's up high, they're not going to get on their hind legs, and they're not really good at it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't tell them they're not good at it. They don't like to be told that. Kids all touchy about it,
Yeah.
So
very, very touchy. Maybe that's what happened to the grizzly man. Maybe he was making fun of them walking on their hind legs.
There you
That was a hard audio to listen to.
It's hard to watch. I gallows humor it now, but it was a very hard video to listen to.
Yeah.
And that just goes to show. I mean, it's the same thing with Bigfoot encounters. 9 times out of 10, or even 99 times out of 100, if you round a corner and run into a grizzly bear, odds are it's going to go its way and you're going to go yours. But if it's right after it's woke up from the winter nap, or it's getting ready to go in, or you get between it and a cub, it's game on. They have cases of grizzly bear killing people in Alaska all the time. I mean, it's not uncommon. It's a little less common down here in the lower 48 because we don't have quite so many grizzly bears as they do, but it does happen. Mountain lions as well. So, if you're going to go out to do any kind of investigating, just be prepared and be safe. At least take some bear spray or something, because it's not just a cryptid you might be having to defend yourself from. It could be a mountain lion, it could be a rabid raccoon, it could be any number of things that can and will hurt you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it could be anything, like you say. Always good to have that hunter's preparedness and such, just to prepare to what's out there. And you make a good point too, because I come across this all the time. I mean, I happened onto this Bigfoot, right, just because, not looking for it. If you're going out looking for Bigfoot in the forest, your chances are you finding one is probably very minute and slim, because they're masters of hiding from us. If they want you to see them, they'll come find you, right? You get half these
Very
people
much
that
so.
say that, well, I've been looking, I can't find nothing. And then on the flip side of that is you have, you'll see more. There'll be more accounts and more reports of the Bigfoot crossing the road, right? I mean, that's a report that you get all the time. A lot of people. That's how you get. That makes up a lot of this, from the BFRO or whatever else there is. So yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm reading chat.
You're fine. I was loading a couple of pictures, but you do your research if you're going to go out. And shameless plug for Doc here. Take a med kit, because you might need it.
Amen.
If you're going out anywhere, whether it's hunting or Bigfoot hunting or researching or whatever you're going out in the woods for, 911 might be a ways away if you can get a hold of them at all. So having a med kit on hand is not just a good idea. It may make the difference difference between you coming out of the woods or not.
Yeah, absolutely. What if you're in an area where, in remote areas where you don't have any cell phone coverage, and even if you're in dense forest, your satellite messenger, your satellite phone won't work. And like I always tell my guys in my classes, hope is a very poor strategy, and you've got to be prepared for the elements. I mean, where you live up there, Rob, in Michigan, man. I mean, I've taught classes up in Michigan in the wintertime, some carbine classes, things like that, and it turned into a cold weather survival class on the range, and it was
absolutely.
It's some brutal. There's some brutal elements up there. And it doesn't take long for somebody to succumb to hypothermia. It may not be the critters that get you. It may be the elements, the environment itself that gets you. So
no, definitely.
Just like you said, y'all were shivering. After your girlfriend fell in the water. So that was in nice weather.
I mean, yeah, it's Michigan. It's funny because I live in southern Michigan, like south of Detroit area, and right now we've had maybe 2 inches of snow where I live, which, knock on wood, right? But if you go 100 miles north of here, you start getting into where I was fishing, or even to the Upper Peninsula. Right now, they've got at least 3.5 feet of snow on the ground.
Yeah.
And,
I got a buddy. I'm sorry, I got a buddy up in Sault Ste. Marie. He's in the Coast Guard up there, and he sent me a video the other day, and he's like, "I'm completely encased in ice," and he was squatting. He was squatting down, and his pants were cracking. So I was like, "Yeah, totally different. Weather pattern up there."
Mondoc 40
it is.
40
And it's like
says, he says, I carry my ouch pouch in the side pocket of my lunch cooler every day at work. I work as a correctional detention officer. When I was a CO, I kept a Dark Angel dart kit on my belt. That you never know when that's going to come in handy.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. What Werewolf just said, you must be prepared to be your own rescuer. 911 ain't coming, you're it.
Well, I know when I was in LBL, there was nowhere in LBL I got cell service.
Yeah. That's it. And and
now you got to get those cell phones.
Right. And those areas like you go into up northern Michigan, man, up in the Luther, Chase, up in the Cadillac area. Those are that's some rugged terrain. It's perfect hiding spot for those critters too. Because you might see somebody, you might not,
sure.
but they'll probably see you well before you see them. Kind of like a big cat.
Yeah, and too. Here's the thing too. It's talking about survival and being prepared. This is like my opinion, right, or theory, if you will. If you are a person that legitimately wants to look for a cryptid, a Bigfoot, or a dogman, that's a story we can talk about, because Wexford County is like the capital of the dogman, right? I think they had their first sighting was like in 1853. I mean, I think they have a song. Even this guy Steve Cook, a disc jockey, made a song about that, which is kind of funny. But yeah. So, but what I was alluding to though is if you are looking and you want to do some Bigfoot research, you can't be on the trail.
Right.
You got to go 50. I mean, I'm going to throw a number out there, minimum maybe 3 miles off trail. I mean, you got to get where you have to go where you don't want to go. You're going to get, the brush is going to scratch, or you're going to go under logs, over rocks. It's something that you really got to be probably in okay shape, but you've got to just go where the average American or average human would go if you want to find these things. And I always, God bless the weekend warriors, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I love you. I still recommend you do what you want to do. But, a lot of times I find that you got to spend 3 weeks out here because, a lot of times, these Sasquatch, they're curious, right? If you set up your camp, you get to camp on Friday. By the time you get everything together, it's maybe mid-afternoon, late afternoon. And they already know you're there, right, when you hit the forest. But my thing is, they get more curious, and the longer you're there, the more closer they might get to your camp. After a couple days, that's the feeling out period. You got to really invest yourself in the time into this.
Yeah. Tim Coonbo Baker was saying you need to be out there at least 3 days.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's a bare bones minimum. Yeah, that's a minimum.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He said it's rare that you hear anything even remotely close to you on the first night.
What you get on your first day is, as I said, if you're driving, you get that obscure encounter that I had, and I've got some theories on why I had that encounter. But again, a lot of people driving the road, you see them cross the road at night, or you might see one from a ridge line, perhaps, and then again, is it a Bigfoot or not? We don't know unless you have some great photography, and half the time you get a picture, it's the blob squatch, and so you just don't know.
Laura Simmons gave us a super chat. Thank you, Laura. You're awesome. Thanks for doing that. We really appreciate it. Moni G says carry a personal locator beacon. Yeah, that's probably a good idea, or maybe a flare gun.
Yeah.
And if any of you are ever in the woods armed, if you're not a hunter, you may not know this, but the universal sign for hunter in distress or someone in distress is 3 shots in the air. They hear 3 shots happen, evenly spaced out, they know to come looking.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead, Thelma.
I just started to say I used that signal for my first husband. I was pointing it at him at the time.
I figured that was coming.
What you did was a 3-round burst, Naoma, not 3 evenly spaced shots.
I get
a
it.
3-round burst. That was rapid fire. Yeah.
He's just lucky I'm a good shot, or he'd be dead right now.
Oh my God.
We had a fiery marriage.
Werewolf 5674 says, you're right, Rob. You have to know how to use a compass and map. Land navigation is no joke. Yeah, I keep a Lensatic compass in my go bag. Anytime I go anywhere, I've got my old Lensatic compass. And you really look like an old geezer when you're out there and everybody else is looking at your GPS and you've got a map and you're like, that way.
Yeah.
How do you know? Because the map and compass is more accurate than your technology.
Yeah, absolutely. And
you ain't got a signal.
Yeah, when you ain't got a signal, you're triple canopy. What if the weather cold weather sucks your batteries dry. I mean, that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mhm.
you're out there literally you're navigating by braille, brother, and that is not a good way to be.
And I've dropped my lensatic compass in the water before and took it out and shook it off and went right back to using it.
Yep. Land nav is hugely underrated, and if you're going to be out doing stuff in the woods, backwoods, yeah, your GPS is great if it works and you get a signal like DA said, but know your area. You can get a topographical map in the correct grid format, and you can use your lensatic compass and learn how to use it. It's the worst time to learn how to use it is when you got to.
That's the worst time to learn
True, you
anything,
guys.
when you have to.
Amen.
And two, like I was alluding earlier, that I haven't really been boots on the ground. I do have a good story to tell you guys regarding Bigfoot, regarding my brother. He is a hunter, but I don't see him that often. He's so busy. He works 7 days a week. When he goes hunting, I'm usually not available. But one of the other reasons why I haven't done a lot of research, because it's just me. My buddies are not into what I'm into, right? Outside of maybe sports. So I'm apprehensive to go into the woods by myself. I mean, I saw the forest from a distance, right, on a fishing boat. But if I was to go by myself, green, and go off trail, or hell, even on trail, right? I'm not yet in that area. So kind of hinders me. So that's why most of my friends live out now, which I have to get together with to go exploring or researching out in the woods. So that's one of the reasons why I'm limited until I can know my whereabouts. Take a course in survival, right, or in being out in the woods.
They're good courses to take
And,
and to have.
Yeah. And
Josh says you go by
referring
yourself.
back to
Your
my
new
brother.
phone number might be 411. Missing 411.
Well, well, no, there you go. Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, the missing
They'll
411
find out I
cases
haven't
are fast.
been back on my show in about a month because I'm missing. But here's kind of a cool story, though. You talk about, a lot of times people are, particularly hunters, right? I mean, they might be out in the woods, and if they have they're not thinking Bigfoot, right? A lot of times people out in the forest are actually probably walking past these things, so they're not looking for the footprints, they're not looking for the tree breaks. And this is an interesting story, because after I told my brother about my encounter, he believed me. I mean, I'm his brother, and he says, yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know. He goes, I don't disbelieve Bigfoot. And so he kind of had my back a little bit. So now when he goes in the woods, he kind of looks for he kind of maybe looks for tracks, maybe breaks. So he told me an interesting story. This is about a year and a half ago. He was hunting in Clare, Michigan, I think it was. And he has a deer lined up. Shoots the deer. He knows he hits it. Now he goes to track it. So we got the blood trail. Tracks it for however. It was quite a distance he had mentioned, and all of a sudden, the blood trail stops at a base of a tree. He's looking around, and where the blood stops, he looks down. He doesn't even see. He knows that the deer fell there, because you can tell that it left an imprint of a body of an animal, which he assumed was his deer. But then he's thinking, where in the hell is this thing? So he happens to look at the base of this tree, and he follows with his eyes up this tree about 6, 7, 8 feet. The blood went up the tree, and then that stopped. And so he tells me this story. Now, of course, at the time, he didn't think to look on the ground for maybe tracks or other prints. He had made mention that he didn't see any hunters, other human footprints, but it wouldn't matter, because where this thing was, there's nobody there and took that deer. It doesn't happen. I'm not a hunter, but I know that no one came in there and took that quick, because it takes a while to get it out of there. So I said to myself, and I even said to him, I said, well, I don't know. I'm thinking maybe a Bigfoot snatched that thing, went up a tree and took off, or it's kind of a mystery how the blood stops 8 foot up the tree. And he said that it's about a 30-foot tree. I mean, to get to the top branch for them to maybe latch on and swing out or get away. That's what I was thinking. But why would the blood trail stop up the tree? Then you get into all these other things about portals in the woo, which I don't know. I think that Bigfoot is some flesh and blood creature I think there is some sort of, they possess abilities that are far superior than ours. I'm not going to go as far as saying the woo, right? You guys all heard about that, or going into a different dimension. But there's things about this creature we just don't know. And that's really what excites me about it is just to figure this out. It's such an amazing subject to get into.
I totally agree. I mean, I had something very similar happen to me. I was deer hunting and dropped a deer, and then it got back up and ran into a ravine. And by the time I got down into the ravine where it was at, it was gone. It found the spot where it had dropped and bled out, but we never found the deer. That's not an uncommon story. I hear a lot of hunters talking about having kills taken. I've also had hunters tell stories of seeing one from a deer stand and never going hunting again. In fact, I know a guy, an officer I met a long time ago at a training seminar. Didn't work in my same department, but he was here in Missouri. He was a deputy sheriff, and he was deer hunting one morning early in the deer stand, and he dozed off, and he felt something tugging at the cooler that he had, his little lunchbox cooler. And when he opened his eyes and looked down, there was about a 9-foot one standing right at the base of his deer stand, tugging on his lunchbox. I said, "What'd you do?" He goes, "I let it have the lunchbox." And when it left, I got the hell out of there and didn't even go back for the deer stand. It wasn't long after that he quit being an officer because he didn't want to go on a call and run into one.
Wow.
But did he open the lunchbox and unwrap the sandwich?
No, he just let go of the strap.
Okay.
Wow. Hope he was wearing his brown pants.
Yeah.
He was by the time he got out of that tree.
Yeah, he was.
When he first told me this story, I was like, "Well, did you give him the lunch?" He's like, "Hell yes, I gave him the lunch."
He can have whatever he wants.
He said, hell, there was other stuff in there my wife packed for me. I wasn't going to fight him for it. Hope he likes chocolate. There were brownies in there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, I might have had to fight him over brownies.
I would have liked to have seen the look on his face when it opened his other can of Copenhagen.
Right.
Oh my goodness, man. That's scary. That's scary.
What is do you remember the story of the guy who was in a sleeping bag and got picked up and carried off
Albert
by
Ostman.
Bigfoot?
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
The Albert Ostman story.
Yeah.
He used his tobacco to get away.
Yeah, while it was over emptying the contents of its stomach, he beat feet.
Holy smokes.
Supposedly they kept
how did that
plan
go?
of Bigfoot
He
kept him
offered
captive for
tobacco.
several days.
Yeah.
They were grooming him to be the daughter's maid, I think. We have a daughter.
Yeah.
She's pretty. We keep you away from other girls long enough. He'll think so too.
There was also a story I heard. I don't know if you guys heard it, and I don't know where it originated, about actual Native Americans. Again, this is back many years ago, hundreds of years ago, where they actually there was some accounts where supposedly Bigfoot had mated with Native women. They would capture them. You know, you have the missing. Well, it's not has nothing to do with the missing 401, and actually there were they had offspring, and I don't know. That sounds far fetched to me, but but then again, I can't say that today because of what I know, right? So it's hard for me to be a skeptic on these things. But I wonder if you guys heard that story.
Yeah, I've heard several versions of that happening. Supposedly, it's still happening in some of the remoter areas of people going missing.
Yeah. The one that comes to mind foremost for me is the lady who came stumbling back into town or whatever after being gone for quite a while, and she was extremely pregnant, and she told the story of saying she was homesick and she wanted to go home, and they took her far enough that she could find her own way. But then when she had the baby, she didn't make it. I think the baby did,
Okay.
but I think it killed
I
her.
think I heard that too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was wondering from a physiological standpoint, how they would actually be able to even have the child or have the infant naturally,
Yeah.
because the birth canal, so
Things
much
aren't going to work very well.
narrower. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
So
C-section all the way on that one, Lady Bird.
absolutely. I mean, I've seen
A
that
li- a
enough in
little-
the medical field.
Little
Well-
rough that you get a C-section done in a Bigfoot camp.
That'd be fast. Whoosh.
Come at you with an obsidian blade,
There you go.
Scalpel.
Yeah.
And even though
Bigfoot.
it makes you beg to wonder, I mean, even the C-section, how big is that little baby too? I mean, that's
12,
I don't
14
even think
pounder.
about it.
Yeah.
Give birth to a 2-year-old,
Yeah.
Right.
Boy, that'll
we had
ruin you for life.
Yeah, we had a lady had a 12-pound baby naturally in the
Yeah.
hospital. Yeah.
My oldest son was 9 pounds 10 ounces, and my wife looked like she was having twins.
Good Lord.
He's a big
Yeah.
boy.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest baby was 8 pounds, and I thought I was going to die.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
My wife didn't have any of them natural. She had to have C-sections with all 3 of them.
Yeah, there's nothing natural about childbirth. I don't care what anybody says. Natural, my aunt's Fanny.
Like,
Well,
That
the old-
was not an exit, I'm telling you.
it's like the old joke.
Well,
My son was born C-section. He's completely normal, but anytime he leaves the house, he has to crawl out a window.
Oh Lord. Yeah, childbirth. Oof.
I don't even know if we got on the subject, but Neil, it's funny. This is not funny actually. I had the very first time I got kidney stones, right, a long time ago. In fact, I was still living at my parents' house. They hurt so bad that I was in the hospital in the fetal position, literally crying. It hurt so bad, and somebody had said, the nurse or the doctor had made mention to my mom that, yep, that feels pretty close to childbirth. And I was like, I'm glad I'm a man because I don't know how these women deal with it.
I'll tell you what, I've had both. I've had kids and I've had kidney stones. And I've had gallstones.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest with you,
Yeah.
kids is better because at least you have something that you can carry around and be proud of. You walk around with your kidney stones
Sure.
and people are like, no, I don't need to see that. Thank you.
Make jewelry out of it.
It's
Yeah.
2
Saved
months. It's 2 months old.
Yeah, I saved my first kidney stone. It looked like a meteor, right, with all these jagged edges on it, and
Mhm.
traveling through your ear there, and it's cutting it all up. I mean, I said, man, I passed that thing.
Kind of proud of yourself, aren't you?
You named it.
You know,
I survived this.
yeah, I saved. I did
Lord.
save the stone. But
My
Rob,
I
husband-
don't want to go through that again.
No, I don't blame you. What other encounters have happened up in your area?
In my area, again, I had my Bigfoot encounter. I'm just talking a relative. My Bigfoot encounter I did talked about my brother and the deer. As far as personal accounts, not too many other ones. I've had plenty of guests on the show that have talked about encounters with Dogman, in Wexford, Michigan, as I came across. But from
I'm
personal
definitely interested
experience,
in
I mean, I
Dogman.
know, I had Jody Cook on of the North American Dogman Project several.
I know Jody.
months
I'm the
ago.
Region 2 director for the NADP.
Okay, well, yeah, we talked about the Wexford, Michigan, as I made mention earlier, is one of the bigger areas. I mean, it's a lot of Dogman sightings out here. And
we can thank Michigan for the word dog man.
Mm-hmm.
And that
You know,
disc jockey
and like
you were
I said,
talking
they
about
call it-
earlier, right?
yeah, he coined that phrase, and everyone thought he was just making something up. But it was just lore. It turned out lore, and now people seem to be seeing them. I think that when I last looked, I looked on a publication. I got this information. There's another guy too, the gumshoe guy, Val Zavala out of Michigan, has some reports on. There was like in the last 3 years in Wexford County, it was separated out. There was 20 in Wexford County alone. There was like 27 Bigfoot reports, and I think there was like 13 Dogman, and then a lot of things are unidentified. Now, a lot of people too on those reports could be misidentification, right? So, as far as personal experience, I haven't had any, and like again, you guys, that's something I'm really into too, because Tex on our show, he had a Dogman encounter when he was about 13 years old, and that's what kind of got him started. And that's something that I like to dive into, and take that a step further, because there's so much out there that we don't know about.
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't want to speak on secondhand news, but it's they're out there, and I believe everything's out there.
Yeah, we had a pretty good time. Me and Nick Valente spent about 4 days and 3 nights in the LBL back in July, and that was a good time. I want to go back and do that. I mean, I'm going to go back and probably try to stay a week this time. It was just a good time. We got some good footage, had some really creepy stuff happen, and it was just a really good time. I've got the video of my LBL trip is up on my YouTube channel, but it was a good time. It was a pretty weird area.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'll have to check that out later on today, or when we're done, because I'm really interested in that. And that encounter story has got to be one of the most terrifying ones I've ever heard of.
Yeah,
out in the LBL.
Yeah, the LBL. Folks, just a quick reminder: if you guys are new with us tonight, and you're here with us for the first time, hit that like and subscribe button on the channel, and make sure you hit that little bell so you get an alert every time we go live. Because sometimes we go live without any warning. Sometimes we do impromptu shows, but we definitely like to have you as part of the family here at DAX Machina. So hit that like and subscribe button, share the video with your friends. Really does help the channel grow. So we very much appreciate that.
DA, when are you planning on going out there? I'm sorry.
Going out to LBL?
Yeah.
Well, there's a camping trip planned for March. I don't have an exact date, but I want to go back in summer or like May, hopefully before Labor Day, and spend maybe a week. I could tell you some stories about that place. It is one of the creepiest places I've ever been in the woods. I grew up deer hunting, and I have never been at a place before where I never saw a single animal.
Well,
not once.
Let me know if you're going in May, because my May schedule is wide open, and I'll drive up there to Springfield, and we can caravan out.
Hell yeah, that'd be a good time.
That'd be a great time, man.
Yeah, let me know too. I'll show up.
Yeah.
Well, you don't live that far.
From?
No,
I'm in Missouri
today if I want to.
I'm in Springfield, Missouri. Doc's near Colorado Springs, Colorado, and Neoma's right outside of Nashville, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's right close to Nashville.
So I'm about an hour from the southern tip of the LBL. About 2 hours from where all of the Dogman stuff has happened, but.
Coin777 says, "Tell us your scariest Dogman story." Well, most of the ones you've heard probably floating around the internet. There's the LBL story. There's the siege at Lockett Ranch, which is pretty terrifying. There's actually more accounts coming out of the Taylor, Mississippi area. There was one about a trucker that pulled off along the side of the highway to rest because he was at the end of his DOT log time, and he mentioned that he was crawling into a sleeper to get some sleep, and he heard something scraping alongside of his truck. So he crawled back up into the driver's seat to look around to see what it was, and as he was checking his mirrors, he realized something was looking at him through the passenger window, and it wasn't standing on the running boards. It was standing on the ground looking directly at him. He saw the yellow eyes first because it was dark, and when he turned on the dome light in the truck, he could make out the outline of a wolf-like creature, and as soon as the light came on, it turned and ran for the trees. And he got the truck started and got the hell out of there, DOT mileage or not.
Ellen Harrington wants to know what the original LBL story and what LBL stands for.
LBL stands for Land Between the Lakes. It's really pretty creepy place. It's along the Tennessee-Kentucky border. It's actually a national park / public use area that spans, what is it, like a couple 100,000 acres.
It's pretty extensive.
The north end is in Kentucky. The southern end is in Tennessee.
Most of it's in Kentucky, actually. There's a little bit in Tennessee.
I spent most of my time in the north end in Kentucky. The original story supposedly happened back in the early 80s. I won't go into a great detail because we've gone over this story a few times on previous shows. And there are a lot of tellings out there. The Cloaked Hedgehog channel on YouTube has the best telling of it, I've heard. But supposedly a family was camping in their RV, and they had just got there right at dusk, and they were setting up the RV, leveling it out, because back in the early 80s you had to hand level your RV. You didn't just have push a button and it levels itself like the modern ones. But apparently it was a mom, dad, a boy about 10 or 12 years old, and a little girl between 3 and 4, somewhere in that area. Well, while they were leveling the RV, a dog man came out of the woods and basically ripped the father apart. Some stories that say it took his head off. Others say it just took off an arm. But the stories all agree that it killed the father first. The boy ran for the door and was trying to get inside when it caught him and killed him just outside the RV. Well, the mother tried to bar the door and told the daughter to hide. And the creature got inside, and the mother fought. She fought hard trying to keep it from getting to her daughter, because the most blood splatter was inside the trailer. It was, supposedly it was just like something out of a nightmare. But she was killed there, and the creature found the little girl hiding in the back. Well, when law enforcement was called, a vehicle drove by and saw the carnage and called the cops. When law enforcement arrived, they started surveying the scene and they only thought there were 3 people involved because they didn't find the little girl. When they started looking through the RV, they found clothing for a small child. They immediately called in search and rescue to start looking for this little girl. And 2 officers that were supposedly Kentucky State Highway patrolmen were walking out through the woods with their flashlights, and one of them stopped and felt something hitting his hat. He thought it was raindrops. Right. When he shined his light up, the little girl was about 30 feet up the tree and been fed on.
Yeah.
Now that's the original LBL story, and there are others. I want to say in 2021, I think there were 13 or 14 people went missing in and around LBL, and some of them were attributed to wild dog attacks. One of the stories, the article itself in the newspaper said that it was wild dogs. It's not a conspiracy, so don't ask. And that was in the article. Who would put that in an article? But LBL is a pretty terrifying area. A lot of stories of missing people around there. Go ahead, Rob.
And sorry to interrupt you. And I also heard that area now where that campsite was, or the park was set up, is no longer available. And I guess they let it grow in with brush. And I guess you can't even go back there now.
Yeah, from what I was told, they bulldozed over the entrance to it. There are still areas where you can camp around it, but not that campground. I looked for it when I was there and never did find it. But the next time I go back, I've got better information. I'm going to be able to go right to it.
Yeah, awesome. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be going back to that area. I'd like to get in that area and camp if I could, but that may not be something the wife will agree to. But there are a lot of stories in LBL, and the funny thing about that is just across the bridge from the north end of LBL is the town of Grand Lakes. No, I'm sorry, Grand Rivers. Anyway, we stayed there. We stayed in a resort in Grand Rivers, and when I was asking people in Grand Rivers about the story, they either clammed up or basically told me to go away. I got thrown out of a store because the guy didn't want to talk about it. Just basically dismissed me and told me to get out of the store. I talked to a deputy sheriff who told me that even though I was a retired Leo and was telling him, I'm just looking into it for a broadcast, he's like, if I were you, I would drop it and not bring it up anymore. And I'm like, okay, fine. So then we stayed a couple of nights. No, we stayed one night in Paducah. Wow. Paducah, Kentucky. And the people in Paducah were exact opposite. Everybody had a story. I talked to 20 guys in Paducah that wanted to talk about it, and they were all fishermen who had seen a dog man from the shore. So that place is still very active. And I've got to get back in there and go to some of these places, because one of the places that I was told by fishermen that is very active, I actually filmed at the location. If you look at my video, I was there in the day, I didn't go back at night, is a camping area called DeMumbers Bay. And apparently that area is pretty active, but I just didn't catch anything. I thought I heard something while I was in the woods there, but I didn't see anything.
Let's go.
Hell yeah.
I'm down like
Hell yeah.
I'm down like a fat kid on a seesaw. Let's do it.
That's a place I won't be going solo. I tell you that.
Oh, I did for 2 days before Nick got there. Yeah, you could watch the videos. I was filming all over the place by myself.
Yeah, check it out.
And after my wife heard, because she didn't hear the story before that, she didn't go with me. Her and my middle son stayed at the resort. I was just going around LBO by myself. And after she heard the story, she's like, "Honey, you are an idiot." I'm like, "I was fine. I didn't get abducted." She goes, "But if you did, there was no way you could have got a hold of anybody because your phone didn't work."
We'll go with friends, DA. We'll go with me and you and Smith and Wesson.
Heck yeah. Or Heckler and Koch.
Yeah, or all of the above.
Our good buddy Sig.
Yes.
You might want to bring Johnny and Jose too, just in case you run out of bullets.
Northwoods Cryptid says, "You might not have seen anything, DA, but I bet something saw you."
Yeah.
You may be onto something, because I was filming next to a little cemetery called the Nickel Cemetery. And if you watch that section of the video, you will see me look off screen several times, because I kept hearing something walking toward me in the woods. That it didn't really, I don't know if you can hear it on the audio on that video, because I didn't hear it when I listened to it. But I heard something distinctly walking toward me in the woods. And when I shut the camera off, I walked out in the woods a ways to see if I could find it. And I just got this creepy feeling, and I was like, you know what? This would be a good time to film somewhere else. So I grabbed my shit and got in the van and got out of there.
Yeah, we'll bring some thermal. I'll bring some thermal, man, and we'll and some night vision, and we'll see what we can see.
Well, Nick and I got a glimpse of something the second to the last day. It was the day before I went home. We got a glimpse of something in the woods, and we were driving slowly in his Hummer. He's got an H3. No, an H2. We were driving slowly, and I said, "There." And we both looked, and we saw a dark figure that was probably between 6.5 and 7 feet tall, dart from behind a large tree. And by the time we got out and started heading that direction, it had went down into a ravine, and it was way too thick and woolly for me to try to wobble my big butt down that ravine. I'm like, yeah, we're going to let this one go. I can't say 100% that it was a Bigfoot or a dog man, but we saw a large, dark figure. When it realized we saw it, it was gone, and it moved fast.
Well,
yeah.
Let's do it.
Keith Jackson says, "DA, if you go back to the LBL, you should get Bart Nunnally and Elijah Henderson. I think Bert knows where the site was. Jody Cook has been to the site too, and I've been talking to Jody. And I got a map of the park from 1982 or 3 that actually has that location marked on it. So I'm pretty sure we can find it with that old map. Trying to keep up with the comments, but I'm way behind on them.
I hesitate to mention this.
What's that?
I happened to see something there once. I'm not quite sure what it was.
You want to tell us a little more about that? I know you and I have talked about it.
It was so quick. I really honestly don't know what it was. It was just very oddly shaped, and it had, the thing that struck me was its legs were very spindly. Its arms were too long. It had a snout, because I saw it on profile, and it either had a hunched back or a big mane. And I saw it. I looked up the hillside, and it was running alongside the car. And it was maybe 2 seconds, and that's being generous. And it turned and just, the woods just swallowed it up. I was so shocked. I still don't know. I still can't honestly say I saw anything. I was talking to my husband about it just today, And I said, he was driving and I was sitting in the passenger seat, and I didn't say a word to him. I didn't say a word to anybody I think it was about a week later. I finally was talking to DA about it. Mm-hmm. And we showed up at a campground full of Bigfoot researchers, and I couldn't even bring myself to talk to them about it. I couldn't. I don't know what I saw. I still don't know what I saw, but it was the strangest thing.
That's not an uncommon reaction. When you see something your brain is trying to tell you shouldn't be there, to just have that oh shit experience, that popping sound is a paradigm shifting without a clutch.
Yeah. My first thought, I think I said we were probably still about 1/8 of a mile from the camp and going very slow. And I just kept saying in my head over and over and over again, did I just see that? Did I see that? Because logically I was telling myself what it was, but my brain was like, oh no, honey, you've been drinking. And I'm like, nah, I'm not, I haven't had a drop. I'm telling you, I haven't drank in years. But it was just I don't know. I honestly don't. Here's the weird thing. I do believe that, if I was going to name what I saw, I would say Dogman, but I was in the southern half of the LBL. And they're just not seen there.
To go anywhere.
Yeah, but it's just not a place where you would expect to see one.
What I saw in North LBL, I would also say in my heart, I think it was a Dogman because of the way it was shaped. But again, it was only for just a couple of seconds, because when I looked at it, it was looking right at me, and I hit Nick and I'm like, stop. And he looked over at it and he saw it and he throws it in park, bails out, and I bail out. And by the time I'm out, that thing had shot across a section of woods about 40 yards and was down in that ravine. And we just caught just a glimpse of it moving fast. And it was within seconds. There was no way I could have gotten a camera ready or anything. I can't go through that. That place is so big. I can't just film the entire thing. So I had my phone ready to film, but by the time I realized what I'd saw and alerted Nick, it was gone. There was no way I could have got a film. I did film a little bit of the area, but there was nothing in it. It was already gone. And I stopped. Well, I walk with a cane. So I stopped just a little ways into the woods. Nick actually went out to the tree, and I could tell by the way he stood that it was easily a foot taller than him, and he's a pretty tall guy. But he found impressions on the ground where something big had been on two legs. Like it kicked up leaf litter moving. And I'm telling you, when I say that thing was moving fast, it was hauling ass.
Yeah, that was the other thing, is just how quickly it was moving. It was just so instantaneous that, again, the snout kind of gave it away for me, I think, because I guess in my mind I had expected Dogman to be, when I saw one, if I ever saw one, I expected it to be muscles from head to toe.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying the legs weren't muscular. They were just so skinny by comparison to the rest of the body that they just they were like a dog's legs.
Spindly, like a digitigrade.
Mm-hmm.
They
definitely weren't
that's a good point,
great feet. Yeah.
I've heard too that's a great point you make up, and maybe like your guys' opinion. I've heard the bipedal. You have the bipedal Dogman, right? He's got the spindly legs, the hocked at the knees, and they're very thin, and they actually have like the German Shepherd looking head on top. And then you'll get reports or people that there's another Dogman that is the muscle bound one that just looks terrifying, like it's just a monster out of a movie. I've heard the various, and there you pull it there. According to this, the variants that, again, what that we're looking at a lot of these times, because you say, man, well, Dogman means different things to a lot of different people as far as what they look like, as the DA just kind of pointed out right there.
Yeah, supposedly they're what they think are 7 different types that are described. The one I think I saw would, if you look at this, the one that Nick and I spotted from the road, if I had to pick one, I would say it was probably most like Canine Variant 1, because it was dog-headed shaped, because
Mhm.
as it turned, when I saw it, it like ducked its head down and started to turn away. So I didn't really get a good look at a snout, but I did see the ears up on top of the head, and it was thin. It was built more like a runner than anything really muscular. But it turned and it was just gone. And I only got to look at it for a couple of seconds, so I can't definitively say yes, that was a dog win, but in my heart I believe it was.
Wow.
You know, it's so funny. It's been, was that in October? I don't remember now. I think it was in October.
Yeah, I believe when you went was in October. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Because I wanted to go and couldn't make it.
I still can't. I just can't rationalize it in my head. And we were sitting there around the campfire, and there was probably close to 20 people there, at least a dozen. And my husband is not a camper. He's not an outdoor person at all. So I didn't even suggest we camp. I'd rented us a hotel room. And he wanted to go, and we were there with Cam Buckner. He was one of the people there. And Cam kept saying, well, let him go, and I'll take you back to the hotel later, and you can sit and visit. And all I could think was, no, I need my husband. I need him to be right here with me, because I need him like he was going to stop something.
It's a comfort. I mean, it's some kind of comfort, something rational you can hold on to, because the first time you experience something that shakes your paradigm, your mind just doesn't. You just reel. I mean, I know when I had my first experience that I thought that I believe was Bigfoot, I couldn't wrap my brain around it. I mean, I had always believed they were out there, but having experience that directly involves something like that, you just whirl it over and over in your head for months and years.
Yeah.
Anthony says, what's the background of dogman? Where do they come from? There are stories of dogman going back centuries. The Native Americans have just as much lore on dogman type creatures as they do on Bigfoot. In fact, the Choctaw talked about wars fought between Bigfoot and dogman over hunting grounds. And we had another question from Mark Napier. Mark says, question, do you think the hawked legs is what makes them so fast? I don't know if it's the hawked legs, and you guys feel free to chime in on this too. I don't know if it's the hawked legs, but if you ever try to outrun a dog, you ain't going to do it, even a wiener dog.
Right.
Well, and they are fast, but also the type of dogman that has the plantigrade feet seems to be very fast. And Bigfoot doesn't have digitigrade feet. They have plantigrade feet, and they're very fast. So I really do think it's the muscle structure, regardless of what the leg structure is. It's the muscles that are on those bones that really make them super fast. They're just designed to go fast.
Coin77 says, please put that up for 30 seconds. I think he means the picture. I'll put that picture back up. But if you want a copy of that, much better than you could do a screen cap, just go to Google, go to image search and put 7 types of dogman, and you'll find this picture.
Yeah.
I got this because I got a lot of picture downloads from the guys from the North American Dogman Project when I joined. But if you go to Facebook and look for North American Dogman Project Region 2, that's my group. Just put in a request to join, and we'd love to have you. In fact, I'll put the group up in the chat if anybody's interested in joining. And we don't just do Dogman. I like to keep my head open for cryptid sightings of all types, because a lot of times these creatures overlap. When you have or you have a Bigfoot sighting, you might also have dogman sightings in the area. So just because if you join the North American Dogman Project Region 2, just because it's dogman doesn't mean you can't post something Bigfoot related or anything. Keeping an eye on other types of cryptids keeps us informed. And when you find, like I said, when you find territory where one shows up, it's likely you may find another. And I think that's been more than 30 seconds.
Somebody wants to know how to pronounce the Lakota name for dogman. You're very good at that.
The only one I know for sure for dogman is Cherokee. It's Oolonga Doglala. But the Lakota, the only one I found was a word for Bigfoot, which was Shietanka.
Yeah, Mark talks about a metatarsal break, and
Mhm.
that probably has a lot to do with
Yeah,
what makes them fast.
if you look up anything that Dr. Jeff Meldrum has talked about, Bigfoot foot morphology and track morphology, he talks about the mid tarsal break, which is a flexion point in the middle of the foot that humans don't possess. And I think the reason that exists is because they spend a lot of their time on all fours like a gorilla. And when we see them up and they're perfectly capable of walking on 2 feet, but when they really want to cover some territory, they will drop to all fours. And there are a lot of reports that corroborate that.
I want to address
You know-
this question from Anthony.
Oh, which one? I'll put it up.
It's the one he wants to know: are there any dogmen in Ocala, Florida that you know of? And what I want to say is I don't know about that. I've not researched it enough. But one of the very first encounters that I ever remember hearing actually happened up in the Panhandle. A woman was traveling with her kids and pulling a trailer, and the kids were sleeping, and I believe the dog man paced the car. And it's probably been 7 or 8 years since I heard that, but it was one of the earliest encounters I'd ever heard. Now, admittedly, that's up in the Panhandle, so it's farther north than Ocala, but which is, I believe, towards the center of the state. But there are dogmen in Florida.
Yeah, there are dogman reports coming in from across the U.S. and actually, there's a lot coming in from around the world. This Saturday's show is going to be specifically about dogman, and more specifically about some of the sightings that are coming out of Maine right now, and some of them are pretty spectacular. On Saturday's show, we're going to have joining us will be Nick Valente from the North American Dogman Project, and my buddy Leon Howarth from England, who's a dogman researcher in England. He's going to be joining us to bring his perspective. So join us Saturday. It's going to be a good show. We'll be talking a lot more about dogman there.
I like Leon. Leon is a very entertaining guy. It's
Leon
interesting because I'm doing my next episode of my show is going to be on Rougarou, Loup-garou, werewolves, and dogmen.
Awesome. Keith Jackson says, isn't Bigfoot how Jody got his start? Yeah, Jody Cook started out as a Bigfoot researcher and got more into dogman. He's also got some of the best casted footprints of dogman I've seen. And it's really good to look at them because you can differentiate the way a dogman track looks like as compared to a large dog or a large wolf, because the back pad where the paw hits the ground, the pad seems to be slightly elongated, which would probably give it a little more stabilization.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
You're fine.
do that. I was looking for something somebody mentioned and I hit a button. There you go.
No problem.
You know, too, when we're talking about the speed of the these creatures, or like specifically with Bigfoot, you know, of course, we know we've had them reports from 6 feet, 8 feet, 9 feet tall, and a lot of things people forget too from reports. The gait of these things could be anywhere from 48 inches to 5-6 feet. I mean, you imagine that gait, you're moving quick. I mean, you're across the road in a half a second with that sort of gait. And then if you're a person that believes into, they can just, you know, disappear at will through a portal, or just kind of phase out and just disappear. I mean, that seems like that we don't know of either. You know what I mean? Like the word I'm looking for, we all know the word where they, not the camp, but the
Cloaking.
Yes, thank you, cloaking. And that could be also predicated to the speed, because you're looking and they're gone. I mean, did they cloak?
Mm-hmm.
Did they go through a portal? Or did they just use that big gate and just take off? You know, I wanted to make
Carrie and I were just talking about that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not you, Carrie. Carrie Arnold. When I was on his show, we were just talking about that, about how the hair samples that they found down in Florida have a clear shaft, much like a polar bear, and that the skin beneath the hair is more of a mottled gray, and it will pick up the surrounding colors. It's almost like a natural camouflage ability.
Yeah. Yeah, because you and I had talked about this on the show. That's what I thought you was talking about.
Yeah,
this
definitely going back to that.
Yeah, because we had talked about on another show about how they may have almost like with that type of the filaments. You know, it's almost like a fiber optic that picks up that stuff, almost like an active camouflage, almost like, you know, like a not a chameleon, because that's a chemical thing, but some sort of active camouflage, which makes them. I mean, you can't see them, but they can see you. So
that gray skin we've noticed this in other animals. It tends to pick up the colors around it. Like if it's surrounded by green, it tends to look more green. Maybe not the exact shade of green, but it tends to look green. And those clear hair filaments, if you look at the show, watch the show that I just did with Kerry Arnold on Bigfoot Odyssey, he actually showed pictures of hair samples they took that had the clear filament on the hair, which the only other animal I know of that has that is the polar bear. And if they've adapted to that, those clear strands of hair will pick up surrounding colors, and so will the green skin reflect surrounding colors. All it would need to do is crouch in the bushes and keep its eyes down, and you'd never see it.
Yeah.
Mrs. Chef Yoda says, "Is there a map of reported dogman sightings?" Not yet. That's one of the things I need to talk to Josh Jones about. He's my webmaster for my web page. I want to start creating. I know there's one. If you go to the BFRO, there's a map that says those reported sightings. But as far as I know, there's no Dogman version of that, and I want to start doing that.
If you go to Cloaked Hedgehog's website, she has a pretty. If this website's still up, because she doesn't post much anymore, but at one time she had a very but you have to go to her website. It's not going to be on her YouTube channel. I will
definitely be looking at that. Keith Jackson says Barton Nunnally was talking about in one of encounters with Bigfoot where they cloaked. Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think it is just an innate natural camouflage ability. It doesn't have to be anything like a cloaking device or stepping through a portal. And I'm not saying that's not possible. I'm certainly no expert. What I'm voicing is merely my opinion based upon observation and research of my own. There are no experts in this field, so any one of us could be right. This is just my particular theory. I think they have a natural camouflage ability. And every deer I've ever shot, the only reason I saw it to shoot is because it was moving. Movement is a dead giveaway in the woods. If it goes dead still and stays in a surrounding where its fur and skin can pick up the natural colors, you're not going to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I remember the first time I went deer hunting, I was like 8 years old, and I always thought, deer are brown, they're tan, whatever. I was surprised how the color variations in there that allowed them to blend in, especially with like the dead hardwood leaves on the floor of the forest. They had a lot of gray in them, gray and white and black and things like that. So they had their own camouflage too.
Mark Napier has an interesting comment. He says, if they were just dimensions or cloak, us looking for them is a waste of time. Absolutely. I agree. What was the other comment? I didn't know this. Gail Drake says Dark Waters has a Dogman map. I will have to look for that as well.
Laura, if you're going to go to the Bigfoot conference in Gatlinburg, look for DA and me and Nance from Bigfoot. We will all be there.
Hopefully that we'll all have tables right next to each other.
Earlier was a comment that it was brought up in chat. I forget who it was. It might have been Northwoods Cryptids. And had mentioned something about suffering PTSD for maybe 2 years after their experience or encounter. The thing I was telling you guys earlier today, and I found this today, it's weird because I've told my Dogman Bigfoot encounter many times. Sometimes I tell them great, sometimes not so great. And it's because even today, telling my story today, it's kind of, I get sometimes in that place where it's a place that just still to this day, you guys, it bugs me, I can talk about Bigfoot, talk about Dogman, and I tend not to talk about my encounter because it just brings up like just something in my mind just kind of triggers me into like a different realm. It's a different, my mindset is different, And I think today, I kind of felt that a little bit talking about it. Again, I can go a day or two and talk about it like nothing, like a drop of the hat. And there's some days, and today I felt like apprehensive today because, you know, it's something I'm never going to forget. And that's what shows, Carrie Arnold. That's what we try to do on our show and all the other great shows out there. Or good some. Obviously, you know, we got to make our decisions, what we think about them with our opinions. But so, yeah, I'm glad to come out about it because today, man, I felt that I had the feeling today that, boy, you know, it's not going smoothly. And I started thinking about what had happened. And I don't wish that on a lot of people. It's not that I wouldn't want to see Bigfoot again, because I would. I think in a different setting, a different environment. And I think I saw was just kind of, I even sometimes question if it was, you know, a Bigfoot, because, you know, Bigfoot normally don't show themselves to people. You know, how this thing just appeared and roared and screamed and did what it had to do. And so if I sounded nervous talking about it, I just hit that today. I got that feeling no good. But I think it went all right, but I just want to clarify that. And especially when I comment and chat about how it's important what we do today to get the message out that you're not alone and you shouldn't be embarrassed or ashamed about your story or your encounter, because it helps me, and I know it helps many, many people out there. There are people out there today that still will not come forth just because of how they feel about the subject, that they be ridiculed, or they ridiculed just about it because there's still that they still have that PTSD worse than some people. I mean, you guys have been 3.5 years for me, and one day I think I'm good, and the next day I'm not so good, you know. And so I appreciate, you know, the time that I could talk about it again. And that's why I only do it maybe once or twice a year, because, you know, it's in my brain, burned in my brain, and again, that's what we do on our channel, and what I advocate to other people.
I had an experience that was actually going on 40 years ago that I still don't like to talk about. Not the experience itself, although there are certain aspects of it that still make my stomach hurt. It's the ridicule that I took. It was humiliating how I was treated for talking about it. And
yeah,
it's still not something I'm comfortable talking about, because I you know, my first husband and his friends were all idiots, and they were calling me the idiot, and I was offended by that. I thought, wow,
no,
you know, it's one thing to be called stupid. It's something else to be called stupid by someone you know is stupid.
Gail Drake had a question. She says, do you think dogmen are migratory creatures? I think both Bigfoot and dogmen follow prey items. If you've got herds of elk and deer in your area, and they're moving around following, like if you can track, but then they released elk in southern Missouri, down near Eldridge, Missouri, you could pretty much track them by where the acorns had been decimated from an area. And I think large creatures that like Bigfoot and dogman use those type of animals as prey items, they will definitely follow the herds. That just makes sense. Any predator would.
Yeah, I mean, I think Dark Waters even had something about the migratory patterns on there. And due to, look at Colorado and Montana, everything out here in the West, we have a big elk population. And they were talking about up in Yellowstone with the wolves. They were concerned about the wolves when they turned up there years ago, affecting the elk population, decimating the elk population. And this not so much the wolf, because what other kind of wounding pattern on these animals look like wolf bites. So there's been quite a few sightings of dogman creatures out here in Colorado, Montana as well. That's I mean, I think that's entirely plausible that they're a migratory species.
I definitely agree. Lexington 73300 says, Naomi, you saw what you saw, and no amount of Scoffix can take that away from you. I totally agree.
Yep.
Josh Jones says, we definitely try to keep this channel as balanced and unbiased as possible. We want it to be a safe place for everyone to share. Exactly. And then K Talk said, She said, I don't tell my story because my son was with me and he has an important career. I won't mess with it. I shouldn't have to worry. I totally agree. For years, I was in law enforcement, one better part of 20 years, and I kept my research pretty much on the down low because I didn't want it to affect my time even on a witness stand. Because if you're a witness in a prosecution, you're there projecting your case, they'll bring that stuff up, try to discredit you. But if you ever want to tell your story, we can set it up so you can be totally anonymous. So we would love to hear your story, and nobody here is going to judge you because of it. We would love to hear it. Let's see. Oh, Luis Noriega had a question. He said, "Do you think the big put in the dogman can do subsonic sounds to mess with your brain and your equilibrium, throw you off balance, or it'll just be the end of you?" If Bigfoot's capable of infrasound, it's not that far-fetched to think that dogman may be as well. And even if they can't, you're not going to outrun one. I mean, if it wants you, it's going to get you.
You too, and most of your mammals can throw off infrasound, like lions, tigers. I mean, they have an infrasound they throw off a lot to stun their prey a little bit as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, and
tigers
we're classifying
do it.
We classify these creatures as animals. At least I do. I mean, Bigfoot, I think, is part humanoid and part, like I say, flesh and blood, right? Humanoid, part animal, or some people say ancient people, or whatever your definition is. So I definitely think that they can do it. I mean, it happened to me. Something happened to me, anyways.
I definitely agree. I mean, the things like that, they affect you, and infrasound effects has been known to affect people in different ways. People at zoos can be affected if a tiger growls, and we've seen that on videos. Elephants are supposedly capable of using infrasound. We know whales do to communicate over, hundreds and even thousands of miles. So it's not something that's wildly speculative to think a Bigfoot would be capable of it. It's a large unknown primate. Whether it falls closer to the gorilla side or the human side, we don't know. It might be that it split off the family tree somewhere after gorillas and just before we did, and they're very closely related to human. We don't know. That's why I don't advocate killing one, because it's, if it's close to human, then killing one's murder, as far as I'm concerned. The only way I will shoot anything, dogman, Bigfoot, is in self-defense. Yes. I'm not going actively to hunt one, but I will say I am not going unarmed, because there are things out in the woods that will kill you. Bears, mountain lions, bobcat. There are animals out there that will lay a hurt on you, and it doesn't have to be a cryptid. So when I go out to do an investigation, I go armed. And again, the only way I'll shoot one is if it's the only way I'm getting down to the woods is shoot it.
Yeah. Technically, we don't fall lower on the family tree than gorilla.
Good point.
Where's that at?
Yeah. I like what Tanya Mills had to say. I think it's gone now. Something about the mass. It was Tanya Willis. Right here. I would think the sound vibrations, size, mass alone would certainly be strong enough to be felt physically. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And also, when this thing, I mean, I say it roared, it screeched, it yelled. I mean, the lung capacity as well was just foreboding. I mean, I felt I felt what was being projected at me, both the vibration and it's throwing me off kilter and losing balance. And obviously, my girl fell off the boat. I mean, that's for sure. And I
mean, you think about this too, Rob. To piggyback on that, think about the average lung capacity of an adult. You got 2.5 to 3 liters per lung, and that's an average size, like say a 38-inch, 40-inch chest. These critters, man. I mean, as big as they are, how big is their chest? I mean, they could probably hold, I don't know, 8-10 liters. I mean, this massive air sac. I mean, because to help them run faster, things like that. So there's no telling how big they could.
Hell, that'd be great. Absolutely, 100%. We talk about what they look physically. We don't know what the inside their organs are all about either. That's a whole other story or concept.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well,
I'm with Northwoods Cryptid. I'm taking a 458 SOCOM when we go to LBL.
just remember you're not supposed to take weapons into the LBL.
Not supposed to.
Yeah, that doesn't mean you can't. Nobody's going to
Not
stand
supposed
there
to
and
drive
frisk
over.
you.
Yeah, not supposed to drive over 55 either.
I
Anthony
have a hard
says
time doing under 80.
Anthony says the government uses the same technology sound on people. Yeah, they've used sonic units to disperse crowds.
Yep.
It's real tech. Mondak 40 in research says it isn't ultrasound very low frequency. If so, I worked on a variant of the -135 EC-135C that had a very low frequency antenna that was used to communicate with the U.S. Navy nukes ICBM subs. I think infrasound is below human hearing and ultrasound is above it. What you're talking about communicating with subs is called the ELF system. It stands for the extreme low frequency system, and they can transmit from towers in the Great Lakes and reach subs at sea. But the thing about it is it's so slow. They get like one character every few seconds. It's a very slow process because the wavelength is so massively long.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because I think that riot tool they had actually caused nausea and vomiting in people.
They've got another one that uses microwave energy, and it'll cause burns.
And of course, there's always the great story about Nikolai Tesla and Mark Twain.
Yeah. You want to tell the story?
No, well, if you want to tell it, you can.
No, go right ahead. You brought it up. I don't want to steal your story.
Well, Nikolai Tesla was experimenting with different sound waves, and he came across one that kind of made people feel funny when they got on the table. And Mark Twain was fond of that. And he'd go over to Nikolai's house and lay on the table and say, "Hit me with that sound." And Nikolai would. And he'd get all jittery and giggle and God knows what else. And one day he said, "Turn it up a little." Nikolai did. "Turn it up a little more," he said. Nikolai did. Pretty soon Mark Twain's muscles all relaxed, and he was in a white suit.
Uh-oh.
After that, Nikolai Tesla called it the brown sound.
Had the urge to purge. Tanya Willis says, "I believe that I'd want to have a flamethrower handy. That's why I want dragon's breath rounds for my shotgun, because nothing enjoys getting set on fire."
No.
Blues.
Yeah, just don't bring one to Northern California. You'll set another blaze.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. Blues and G Music says, check old report in the KC newspaper from the late 40s or early 50s. A dog man killed a couple of people. They ended up killing it. There were pics in the newspaper. It's an old story. I'm going to have to look for that.
Yeah, me too.
And, people that say that we've never found bones or never found proof, this, granted, the authenticity of the photo is going to be tough to prove. But this was supposedly taken from remains found in Lovelock Cave. And we know for a fact that there were large remains found in Lovelock Cave, because they were put on public display for years in a museum until the Smithsonian found out and asked to borrow the remains for study, and they vanished. Every time large remains are found, the Smithsonian somehow gets a hold of them and they're gone.
Yeah.
Once the Smithsonian gets a hold of these large remains, they vanish. So believe it or take it for granted or what, but I believe this is a real photo, because we know for a fact the large remains were found in Lovelock Cave.
Good old Smithsonian.
Gotta love them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they a lot of people talk about, hey, what would you do if you captured a Bigfoot? Now, this is out there, right? Captured a Bigfoot. Or I'm an advocate too. I'm not going to hunt Bigfoot. If something in the woods attacks me, then yes, I'll defend myself, right? Let's say you had you had found a body, it's a fresh body, and you had a tractor to pull it out of the woods for one, because number one, getting it out. I was asked that question once. I think I would, if that happened, I would take it straight to Fox 2 News. Just right there. Boom. I mean, I'm not going to call the government. I'm not going to call any of these ABC outfits, because there, you'll never see it again. You know, there's been so many stories too about supposed finding bodies of a Bigfoot or a dog man, or as you said, bones. Hey, once you let somebody outside of into the government agencies know about these things, it disappears, and you're hushed, you're silenced, whatever. So no, I do not trust our government when it comes to these things. I'm taking it right to the news. My local news is going to see this thing, film it, and get it on camera right there before the government gets their hands on it.
Take as much evidence as you can and scatter it, because once the government gets their hands on it, it's going to get buried. Mark Napier says a lot of Bigfoot reports tell about people losing control of their bowels and bladder. That may just because they were scared shitless, but like that's just my opinion. Go ahead, Neil. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you guys remember the story of the torn up camp? And I believe it was in the Big Thicket in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
They came across the camp and it had clearly been destroyed by something. I believe they had footprints. They went and got the authorities because there were kids' shoes, I believe, found and nobody around. And they were basically sent out of there. When they went back, the camp had been pretty much removed. And I don't remember who the man was, but he's no longer on the internet. He won't talk about it. They took away his camera, his computer. They basically did a smear campaign on him. It was not pretty.
They did the same thing to Dr. Melba Ketchum when she did the DNA research on Bigfoot.
Yeah.
When she published her findings, they did their level best to destroy that woman's career. Josh Jones says, "Do you think the Department of the Interior is in the Smithsonian are in cahoots as far as keeping a lot of this information under wraps?" I think the government has a vested interest in keeping us in the dark about this, because if they ever admit they've known about it for a long time, that makes them culpable in a lot of the missing persons.
Yes.
By the way, that's why Dr. Ketchum's findings have never been vetted and probably never will be. Because she's one of two things. Either she was a victim of a smear campaign or she was nuttier than a fruitcake. And anybody touches those findings is going to go through the same thing. They're either going to face a smear campaign or be called nuttier than a fruitcake.
Exactly.
It's just Keith Jackson, the same thing.
Keith Jackson says that's the same thing that happened with the giant bone that was found in the caves and mines of Harlan, Kentucky. That doesn't surprise me. I mean, every time there were big bones, giant bones that looked human, but the skull was like 3 times the size of a human skull, found when the U.S. Army was excavating a runway on one of the Aleutian Islands during World War II, and someone from the Smithsonian came to collect them and gone.
There was some caves in Arkansas. 2 brothers did an entire documentary on them, where big bones were found, and then the bones vanished, and the 2 brothers went back to find the caves. I believe one of them was an underwater cave, but they did find them, and they found people who remembered when they were discovered, but all the evidence is gone. Except I mean, they found the caves, but
I believe there's an active group that suppresses this information. Whenever something definitive is found, it's buried.
And I believe the underwater cave actually was a man-made lake. I don't believe it was an underwater cave until the government came in and created the lake there. Now that's wanting to hide something pretty bad that you're willing to make a whole lake out of it.
Yeah, you want to bury something pretty deep. Tanya Willis says, "Don't squirrels eat bones? Also, the creatures could have some sort of protocol habit for taking care of the dead, as some species. If they're close to human, I believe they are probably smart enough to bury their dead or at least dispose of the bodies, because they have learned over generations of their history that humans are dangerous. If they show themselves too much, humans attack, and sometimes they attack in large groups. So I would say these things are smart enough to know that they got to get rid of the evidence and stay the hell away from us. I'd say that's why encounters are rare, but also with us expanding more and more into wilder areas, people are going farther backpacking. Housing developments are being built in places they never were before. We're going to have more encounters, and I think that's the reason why both Bigfoot and Dogman sightings are on the rise.
Yeah.
Too, and the decomposition of any dead animal in the forest is very quick. I mean, how many dead carcasses of a deer would you see? I mean, we might see them, but they happen very quickly. And if Bigfoot indeed is way deep into the forest, if they were to pass away, I do believe that perhaps they do. I believe they travel in a troop or as a family unit, and I think they do take care of their dead. That's my opinion. But and at the same time, by the time one of these things were to fall ill and pass away, die, whatever, by the time a human even gets to that part of the forest, it's already decomposed. I mean, it's like I said, I've never seen a decomposed deer that much, but from what I've talked with other folks, it's very far in between.
I've come across deer carcasses and deer bones, but I have never come across the bones of a bear, and I know they're a bear in this area. In fact, people have seen them in their backyard here in town, but I've never come across the remains of a bear. Now, I know hunters who have, but generally, if something dies in the backcountry, within a few days, it's gone because even the bones get scattered by the smaller predators.
Yep.
I don't know. I was distracted. Did somebody point out the fact that deer eat bones for the salt? Yeah.
And calcium.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I was wondering too. I don't know. Maybe this we got brought up. I was talking with Josh, but could some of the species that like like DA you talked about the different types of Sasquatch, different types, the variants of Dogman. Could some of them be cannibalistic to some degree?
Very well could be. I mean, we don't know. People have brought up why we've never seen one in the fossil records, but the conditions under which an animal becomes a fossil is extremely difficult. It's not like every animal that dies becomes a fossil. In fact, I read once that it's only like 1 in every million or more animals that actually becomes a fossil. So, and when we're also unearthing new fossils all the time, but the simple thing is the conditions under which something becomes a fossil is extremely rare. So the fact that we haven't found one doesn't necessarily mean they don't exist.
Right. And just like Northwoods brought up, he said, how many animals die in a swamp and the remains are never seen by anyone because they sink into the under the water, and that's all organic matter, and with all the stuff there, they're consumed pretty quickly.
Yes.
Lexington 73-300 says Missouri Department of Conservation still won't admit to mountain lion sightings in Missouri, and I know people with trail cam footage of mountain lions in Missouri. We've been at campgrounds and heard them scream. I mean, it's very distinct what a mountain lion sounds like. So they are definitely in Missouri.
Wow.
Josh Jones says, that's funny about the ammo department because Ohio DNR is straight up telling people at Bigfoot and it's about Bigfoot and it's interesting. Yeah. Those videos are awesome. The Ohio Department of Natural Resources has a series of 5 videos about Bigfoot. And when I first heard about them, I thought, it's probably just done as a joke. They're not. They're straight up talking about Bigfoot.
Yeah, because didn't you put up some sort of warning, some kind of posting or something on one of the shows, DA, as well?
Yeah. Let me see if I can find that. I know I've still got it.
Out in the woods. Don't be out in the woods after dusk and things like that. I was like, wow. I think government admitting that there's actually UFOs out there now.
Pretty much. Well, yeah, they are declassifying more of that all the time.
Yeah. Let me see here.
I must have deleted that picture because I can't find it.
Let me see if I can find it, man. I don't know.
I would have sworn I kept it. Maybe I'm looking in the wrong folder. Yeah, I must have deleted the picture. I don't know. It's not in my files.
All right. I'll see if I can find it.
Okay, no problem. Rob, what do you think about that? I mean, what do you think about the no fossil records and the possibility of them burying their dead?
Well, with burying their dead, I like I said, was stating a little bit earlier. I think that, I mean, my belief is when we're talking about like Sasquatch is they're social, right? There's a social being. I think that they probably do bury their dead, and at the same time, I do think that since they're so entrenched in the forest, I believe we wouldn't find it anyways. And as far as with the fossil records, I mean, if we, I don't think that I think they're all hidden. I think that that everything is hidden to keep away. I mean, they don't want disclosure on anything, and I think anything that they don't want society to involve with this or roll with this. So I just think that that's something we'll never come up with. I just think that they, as I was stating earlier, I think that they just they take care of their own. They dissipate when they pass away, and it makes it very tough. And of course, when you have outside agencies covering up things, it's very difficult for us to find the answer to that.
Very true. And I think the U.S. government has known about them for a very long time. I've been pretty vocal about my theory about Teddy Roosevelt. I'll touch on that briefly because I've gone into it at length before. But Teddy Roosevelt wrote a book called The Wilderness Hunter, in which he relayed the account of a trapper named Bauman, who is one of the first recorded stories ever told of a Bigfoot attack where it killed somebody. But there's so much detail in the story that you wouldn't hear from somebody telling a story over a campfire, which leads a lot of credible thought about Teddy Roosevelt actually being Bauman, because he still had a political career ahead of him and he didn't want to admit that he'd had a Bigfoot encounter. He was known to be a big hunter, and he hunted a lot in Montana and Wyoming, all through that area in the Rockies before he became president. Even after he was president, he went on hunting safaris to Africa. The guy was a definite outdoorsman. Well, I think, and this is just my theory, I think after his Bigfoot encounter, later he became president of the United States. He is the founder of the National Park Service, the guy who cordoned off millions of acres to restrict people from getting into certain places. I don't think that's I really don't think that's a coincidence. Again, as a cop, I don't believe in coincidence. I think that's very clear delineation that he knew about them and wanted to try to create preserves where they would be away from people.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny you say that, DA. When I was looking for that sign, it said there was actually an article from the USDA back in February of 2017 that said loss of space. The title of the article is "Loss of Space is Threatening the North American Sasquatch." So, pretty interesting how they were even talking about that back then.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look back, if you look at on the internet for Bigfoot sightings or newspaper accounts, you are only going to find online archives of newspapers going back to probably the 1980s, maybe even the 1970s. But there are so many stories in the old newspaper archives from before then, ones that you're only going to find on microfiche or in rare collections, like in some of the libraries. And that was back before they had the word Bigfoot. They didn't know what it was. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these articles talking about people being attacked by a wild man, or a devil in the woods, or devil monkeys, or monkey men attacking homesteads. These stories are out there, and they are older than the internet. I mean, people, news existed before the internet, and a lot of these stories you cannot find on Google searches. You're going to have to go dig in some of these archives, and I would love to have just the time where I could go and just dig those up, those wild man stories, because they're out there. There are hundreds and hundreds of them.
Yeah, that's such a great point. We can find what we can find on the internet, but if you go back in those archives, I bet you there's some stories and there's information out there that would just blow our minds away. And that's what you say, if you have the time to do that, that would be an all-day event to do that, and that's something that's really a great point.
Yeah, a person can make a career out of just digging in those old archives.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, and it wasn't suppressed back then like it is now, you know.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I know there was tales of dogman-like creatures, although they didn't call them like that. They called them werewolves or wolfmen or creatures like that. I know there are tales here in Missouri that were along the Osage River Valley before they built Bagnell Dam, and there are still accounts up near Montreal, Missouri, of people seeing these dog-headed creatures. Yeah. So those stories date back to well before Bagnell Dam, which was built in the 30s, and back into the 1800s. And I wrote a couple of short stories based on some of the stories that I heard, the Beast of the Osage Valley. But those stories are out there. They're now lost to antiquity because the people I heard them were old when I was a kid. But I remember those stories, and that was how I created some of those short stories that were narrated on the What If It's True podcast. I sent those stories to Naoma and Cam, and she narrated 2, and Cam narrated 1. Those are stories that I actually encountered. I mean, things that were talked about here in Missouri from days before anybody knew the word dogman or knew Bigfoot. When they talked about wild men and wolf men and crap like that. Yeah. Those stories are out there.
Yeah, I mean, growing up as a kid in South Mississippi, I found that out from my grandma down in the Pearl River swamp area close to Louisiana. And she was talking about how her mom had always said, if you don't do it, the Rougarou is going to come get you. So
yeah.
That was, that back in the 1800s.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Meg, thank you for the super chat. You are awesome.
I was even thinking to you guys. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I can't come up with the name anyway. I started to say a name of something, but I can't remember what it is.
Okay. As we were talking about like the Smithsonian bones vanishing, I'm wondering even now that we're talking about this is like if the United States government or any of the agencies, we're talking about these archives dating way back where you can only find it on microfiche at the library. I'm even wondering if there's a special agency that kind of goes over that, combs over that, and deletes certain things, because, and even on the internet, sure, we provide information or we look for information. I'm not so sure that all that's even on there either. So I'm thinking that they try to keep a lot of things under the hat because there's a lot of researchers out there that are digging into this. DAs such as yourself, you're an author, you write books, and you do research. Now, the government knows there's smart people out there that dig and are tenacious about it. So I even wonder if they have a separate group that even monitors that.
I think you're right, because I know for a fact some of the stories I researched of missing persons in LBL, when I went back to look for them again, they were gone. Like, you couldn't find the links, you couldn't find the references, nothing. But I remember reading the stories. I should have copied them and saved them, but I assumed I would have time to go back and get them later. Much like where Steve and I captured the footage of whatever that was behind the tree in the Joe Bald Recreation Area here in Missouri. It's an old abandoned campground. We captured some footage down there, and when I was researching that place, there were at least 7 or 8 people that were associated as going missing in and around that park as why they closed it. And then when I went back again to get the articles, they were gone. You start digging into stuff like this and it just disappears. Gail Drake, super chat. Thank you for the great info. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for the super chat. You're awesome.
Paramalfe.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite stories from Kolchak the Night Stalker about the Spanish moss monster. And for years after watching that, I would dig and do searches and ask people, and I would get either yes, it's a real wlegend, or no, it was made up by the writers for the show, and I couldn't get definitive confirmation. Robert Miller, who a lot of you guys know from chat, he's also Sentinel in the Nightmare Hunter series. Good friend of mine, he has family from southern Louisiana, and I asked him to dig into it. Come to find out, Paramalfe is a real Cajun legend, the Spanish moss monster, the boogeyman that'll come and get you if you don't behave.
Mm-hmm.
Louis Noriega had a question. I'm going to have to read it off of the No, it actually did show up. I thought it wasn't giving me all of it. He says, wasn't there a great trapper named Jeremiah Johnson was blamed for eating other trappers' livers? Do you think it was a Bigfoot incident? I'm not sure. I think Jeremiah Johnson was the movie with Robert Redford. I could be wrong. I think you might be thinking of the what is that? I
Red,
know.
White Buffalo.
No,
The Donner Party.
The Donner Party. I think you might be thinking of the Donner Party, but they had survivors of that said they had been eating the other the people that passed away. So I don't know. I could look into that, but I think you might be thinking of the Donner Party.
Yeah, I ate him.
He was tasty.
A little bit of fava
Flyby
beans
Stew
and a
says
nice
rock
canned
apes of
tea.
Vietnam. Yeah. A little Hannibal Lecterism.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got to say this with some fava beans and a nice topic.
Oh,
There you go.
oh God, here we go.
That's a sickness on this show, guys.
Yeah. Joseph Fusco says, Lynn Smith reports a lot of the old newspaper articles about the wild men. Very interesting. Someone the other day was telling me about a book. I want to say it was David Paulides that put it out, that all it is those old newspaper clippings. And I haven't gotten that book yet, but I think I've got to find that book now, especially if it's full of old newspaper clippings.
For sure.
Laura Simmons says, just purchased my Gatlinburg VIP Bigfoot ticket. Yay. I haven't bought my table yet because Cam's supposed to tell me where his is so I know which one to pick. He hasn't told me yet. I need to get a hold of him tomorrow.
I haven't bought my ticket yet. I don't get a table, so I have to buy a ticket.
Smithsonian has thousands of storage warehouses. Many things can be lost in there. And I think some of them are lost on purpose.
Bless you again.
Bless you, Doc.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Northwood says he's heading for a nap. Hey, bud, thanks for joining us. You be safe tomorrow. Keith Jackson says that DA, that is in the movie. Great movie. Yeah, that was a good movie that had, I think, it had Brian Keith in it. One of my favorite lines from that movie was, "Haven't you ever been lost?" And Brian Keith goes, "Lost? No, I've never been lost. I was awful confused for a month or two, but I've never been lost."
That is a great movie.
Oh.
Sal's heading out for the night. Sal, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
I think, guys, I'm sorry.
Getting ready to head for bed?
Yeah, that 11 o'clock rolled around and my eyes are burning.
Yeah.
Well, that is perfectly okay, Naoma. We'll probably keep things going for a little bit. We're having a good conversation.
Yeah.
And, thank you so much for joining us. You were always the light of the show.
I hate to leave. I feel so bad. My eyes are just on fire right now.
Well, if you get bored on Saturday and want to jump in, you're welcome to. We'll be talking a lot more about Dogman then too.
I'm definitely going to try to stay up at least long enough to say hi to Leon because I just love him.
Nick will be there too.
Oh gosh, I haven't seen Nick in forever.
Yeah, he's going to be on the show. I'll have Leon on the show, and hopefully Doc will be available.
I'll be here, brother.
I better see him at the LBL this year.
Yes.
You guys have a great night.
You too, Naoma.
Anthony says, DA, think about how true your books are about a strike team going out and killing cryptids and cover up on the subject. I actually got the idea for the books from rumors I heard of a special forces team that did just that. And then after I released the first book, I got a phone call from a buddy of mine who is still in the military. And I can't say what branch or what special forces unit he's attached to because I told him I wouldn't bust him out. But I got a phone call and he's like, "Hey brother, where do you get your information? Because you've got some people worried." I'm like, "I just guessed, man. I'm just guessing here. You back?"
Yeah, it was nice to meet you, Rob. Good night.
That must have been a long delay. It was a delayed feed.
Well, DA, they say art imitates life, and so there you go. Case in point, right there.
Yeah, it was rumors of a team that does just that. That's why I created Codename Wild Hunt. And it was Doc in my conversations and him helping me patch people up in the books, keeping that realistic, that led to the famous snowmobile scene, because I just had to have Doc in the books. You know, when I thought of that line, when I typed that line out about having angry sex with my snowmobile, I just could hear your voice. I could hear your drawl saying that. I'm like, he's gonna love this line.
One of my favorite lines ever.
We got to do that on a t-shirt.
I was just thinking about that. Yeah, that'd be a fun t-shirt.
Mondoc 40 in research says, so you're the Tom Clancy of the cryptid world. That's awesome, man. Thank you. That's high praise. I love Tom Clancy's books. Appreciate that, man. Anthony says there was a SEAL team that did a hunt. I've read that encounter. Actually, I've heard several encounters of Special Forces units being called in to take on cryptids that have been killing people, mostly Bigfoot. But supposedly a Special Forces team was called into LBL after the 1982 incident, and people that lived near the area reported seeing a helicopter come in and carry something out that was big in a cargo net.
Really?
So I think they killed something.
And also to take on the giant of Kandahar, right? Was toward the military, the giant upheld it up in the mountains.
Yeah, the Giants of Kandahar, those are great stories. And you know, the description that they gave of the giants is exactly like the description that was described by the Native Americans for the creatures they found in Lovelock Cave. They are the same, the same description. So I definitely think that happened. I mean, there's just too much information. And I believe it happened more than once, because there's multiple versions of the Giant of Kandahar story. And I don't think they're getting details wrong. I think it's happened more than once.
Yeah.
Josh Jones says, just a sneak peek for the video game. Pocket Doc is going to have a very interesting attachment to the game. Probably something you'll see within the next 2 months. I've got some stills from the upcoming game if everybody would like to see them.
Yeah.
These are the computer generated faces. This is the kind of detail this game is going to have. Wow. This is one of the location settings.
Nice.
And if you guys would like, cool. I will play the trailer real quick. If you guys would like to watch the video game trailer. This is a video game that's being created by the guys over at All Tower Media based on my books. So here's the trailer. It's not very long.
Tower 7, come in. Come in, Tower 7. Tower 7, do you copy? Welcome to the wonderful life of Fire Lookout. My name's Alan. You must be Jeremiah. I'm just glad to hear anything but static. Last guy just up and quit. We're on our own for now.
What the hell is this? There's nothing like this on any of the maps.
Oh, thank God I got a hold of you. Listen. It's a kid. They're missing. When you look out at the forest at night, does it ever feel like it's looking back?
That game is going to be so fun. That game is going to be so fun.
That's very cool.
There at the end, where it shows the board with the posters, the missing posters. If you look over to the far right, there's a poster that has claw marks on it. It said "Wanted for questioning." That's a picture of me with this hat on. Some jackass writer up there doing some research. Now he's wanted for questioning.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to being able to play that game. It's going to be a lot of fun. They are doing such a great job.
Yeah,
They
the
are about to
graphics are
launch
really
the
cool.
The graphics are great. I believe that's being done on the Unreal Engine, which is awesome. Adam, Josh, and Matt are doing an incredible job on that game. I cannot wait to play it. It's going to be fun.
I mean, the people look like realistic. I mean, they look like a snapshot of photo, damn near.
Yeah, the
Very cool.
graphics are intense.
Yeah.
Josh has a good point. Says for more sneak peeks on a regular basis and before the launch of the Kickstarter, be sure to join the Discord. Yeah, there'll be updates on my Discord and on the All Tower Media Discord as well.
Cool.
Here's a good one. Anthony says there's an Air Force or Navy pilot that saw the giant in Afghanistan. They have a thermal video it as it was running. Ooh, I'd like to see that video.
Yeah, that's cool.
If you've got a link to that video, send it to us.
Heck yeah.
Tanya Willis says, excellent trailer. Will this game be for PC? Sorry, I'm ignorant of games since my son is grown and gone. Yeah, it's going to be on PC. I think it's going to be released through Steam.
I've got a Steam account.
Yeah, Josh, just Steam on PC. I do too. I play Bigfoot on Steam. It's fun. It is a game that's almost impossible to win, but it's a fun game to play. Josh says the game will be exclusively released through Steam for now, and there may be alternate release points later on. If you guys have a Steam account, you can create one for free. There's a game called Bigfoot, just straight up called Bigfoot. We actually played it on the air one night. But you play a group of cryptid researchers that are in a park looking for missing people, and the Bigfoot is nasty and it comes after you.
Wow.
And if you play it solo, you're not winning. I'm just telling you right now, you're not winning. We played it with 4 people and we're still getting our butts handed to us. That thing is hard to stop. Mark Nibber says, I loaned Lakeview Man 2 to a buddy just to mess with him while he was deer hunting.
That's just wrong, Mark.
And that's
just wrong,
hilarious.
man. That's awesome. That's funny, man.
Blue Crew says, even though I'm not a gamer, the trailer looks real scary and cool. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Anthony says, let me look. DA, where can I send it to? That is an easy one. Let me find it real quick, and I will put it up on the screen. You can reach either myself or Naoma, but you can reach me specifically at DA Roberts at daroberts.net, or you can reach Naoma at naomafinn@gmail.com. Or if you need to contact us by mail, want to send us a postcard or something, you can reach us at P.O. Box 4614, Springfield, Missouri, 65808-4614. And also, just a shameless plug for Doc and Dark Angel Medical. If you guys are looking at getting a medical kit, definitely go by darkangelmedical.com. And if you order anything from darkangelmedical.com and use the code cryptid25, that's for our viewers, you get 25% off your order. And if you order one of the new spear kits, when you order the ordering instructions, put Team Odin in the instructions and you will get the Team Odin patch. Kind of a little grainy there, Doc. I'll put mine up too.
Sorry, man. It's that blazing fast broadband internet I have out here in the sticks.
Yeah.
Your internet comes in by dog sled, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it does. They pipe it in.
Yeah.
Smoke signals. In fact, I will just go ahead and play a real quick short video from our good folks over at darkangelmedical.com.
Oh, Lord.
Everybody, this is Kerry Pocket Doc Davis from Dark Angel Medical, and you are listening to DA Ex Machina with DA Roberts. You may recognize me or some of my products from Dark Angel Medical in some of the Apex Predator, Lakeview Man, and Wild Hunt books, and you can get those products at www.darkangelmedical.com, along with training classes on how to use those products and save a life. Shoot us an email at info@darkangelmedical.com and be the difference.
The Dark Angel medical kits are lifesavers.
That's awesome.
Thanks, brother.
I
Appreciate
carried
it.
one throughout most of my law enforcement career. Definitely, if you're going to be anywhere, if you're a hunter, if you are a recreational hiker, heck, even just keep one in your car. You never know when a medical kit will save your life. And something that they have that I find incredibly amazing is what Dark Angel refers to as the Kit for Life guarantee. Use your kit to save a life and contact them, send them the kit, and they will resupply the kit of everything you used for free.
Awesome.
Happy to do it too. I appreciate that. Thank you, brother.
Hey, anytime, my man.
Hey,
There's a reason I use your kits in my book and carried one.
That's right.
DH, on that note, I got to do something by 1 a.m. here. And so I don't want to cut it short, but I got something I need to do before I go to bed. But
I
really
totally understand, man.
Man, I totally appreciate this great show. I'm glad you invited me.
Well, thank you for coming on, man. I loved your stories, and you are welcome back
Yeah.
anytime. If you want to jump in, just shoot me a message. And if you see we're going to have a topic you want to get involved in, just shoot me a message, and we're happy to have you.
Awesome. And for everybody listening, in fact, DA is going to be on our show, I think, next Monday on Texas Front
Yes,
Porch, 6:30 Central.
I'm going to put the links to your shows in the chat again.
Cool.
I'll put the links to both those podcasts in the chat again.
That'd be great. I appreciate it. And I had a great time. I hear some different perspectives, which is always awesome. I like to sit down and talk this stuff. Some people have done it longer than I, or vice versa. But it's all about learning, man. And I'm all about being a sponge.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, I'm always looking to learn more information. Well, again, man, thank you for being on.
Man, I appreciate it. I'm glad I came on, and you guys have a great night, and I'll see you next week.
Absolutely. Thanks, man. I'll see you then.
All right. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Doc. Thanks. Thank you to chat. All right.
Thanks, man.
Louis Noriega asks, in the Bigfoot game, do you have a choice of weapon, or do they just give you a little 22? No, you've got several weapons to choose from. And it's, you can find ammo hidden around in different places on the game. And it's a pretty neat game. I mean, you can find med kits and other things to help you. But if you're looking for an easy game, this ain't it. If you play it solo, count on getting your butt handed to you, because that's what's happened to me every time. The first time I played, I didn't leave 30 yards from the RV that is your base camp. I didn't get 30 yards from it. And every time I'd hear it howl, I'd run back inside and wait. And then this big hairy arm comes through the window and started slamming me around. I'm like, good God, this thing's killing me in the RV.
Movement is life.
Stay moving and stay barricaded.
Yeah.
Josh says the way the weapons will work, as you will find tools and weapons along the way, it's going to be a discovery system. Clues will lead you to new areas, and tools will unlock new areas. Josh says, I thought he was asking about your game, not Bigfoot. LOL. Well, it's good information either way, Josh.
Yeah. That'd be fun.
I'm
right there with you, brother.
It's getting a little late. Coffee's starting to run low.
Yeah. I'm about to have a pee on the fire and call in the dogs.
Well, Doc, appreciate you, brother. Nothing but love, man. You're family.
Same here. You are too,
we get to go into LBL. I'd love to have you along. And,
I'd love to be there. That'd be fun.
Yeah. And I definitely want to come out to Colorado and go Wendigo hunting with you. That's going to be a hoot and a half.
I'm gonna start looking at at some of the Dogman sightings out here too. We can go explore some of those areas too.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah,
Bigfoot or Dogman, either one. I'm down.
Yeah, I'll start doing some research.
To steal one of your phrases, I'm down like 4 flat tires.
Heck yeah! Now that'd be. I mean, we could make a whole week of it, and I mean, because a lot of these areas overlie one another. Because like you're saying, the Bigfoot and the Dogman, the tribes seem to have been warring for many, many years. So I think they're fighting over territory and food more than anything.
I would agree. And the more we encroach on the resources and move into those areas, we're going to see more of them. And even in some places, there are places in Oklahoma where people have seen them in town. not just like on the edge of town or the towns at the edge of town, like in town raiding trash cans.
Holy crap.
The problem being with that is if things like that are that much stronger than us lose their fear of us, then it's going to be a bad day. We're going to see a lot more people go missing in the woods if that happens.
Yep. Katie bar the door then, son.
You betcha.
That's for sure.
Well, folks, we are wrapping things up for the night. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Don't forget this Saturday to join us. We are going to be discussing Dogman, specifically Dogman attacks recently in Maine. There have been a whole bunch of accounts coming out of Maine. One in particular I want to talk about was a family that was laid siege in their own home by a pack of dogmen, not just one, a pack. We'll probably also talk about some of the other more famous cases like the siege of Lockett Ranch, and we'll probably delve into LBL a little bit. But joining me will be Nick Valente from the North American Dogman Project and Leon Howarth from Do It Noel's Way on YouTube. If you check out Do It Noel's Way on YouTube, you'll see his research into Dogman sightings in England. We're going to have him on the show to give his perspective of some of the things that have been happening here in the U.S. because he has a really good perspective on things, and he's pointed out some things I never noticed before. So it's going to be a good show about Dogman. We're going to really delve into it. Doc, I'm hoping you'll be with us there too.
Yes.
Because I always like your point of view. You always bring a good perspective.
Appreciate it.
Anytime, brother. Again, thank you guys for joining us. I want to thank everybody for joining us. We don't have fans. We have friends. We have great conversations. Once in a while, somebody will get a little rowdy, but we try to keep that to a minimum. We want this to be a place where everybody can come and talk about their stories.
Yeah.
We're not here to judge anybody, and the biggest thing about cryptids is what everybody needs to remember is there are no experts. Anybody that claims to be an expert, that they know everything there is to know about a cryptid, they're either selling you something or they're full of crap, because there are no experts in this field. What we've talked about on here are just our theories. Your experience may be totally different than ours. You may have other theories, and it doesn't make yours less valid than ours. Yours are just as valid as anything we've thought of. And that's what this is us talking about theories and things we've observed. And that's what's great about it, is we can talk about that with an open setting. And just because I haven't experienced something doesn't mean it doesn't happen. And just because your perception was you thought the thing was the gentle giant of the woods doesn't mean it wasn't. But not all of them are like that. Grizzly bears are the same way. You'll find bears that are pretty tame and don't have a bad temperament and will run away if you get too close to them. And then you find other bears that will just straight up eat you. So it could be that way among cryptids. It could be different personality types, or it could be whether or not they've been able to hunt or game has been scarce. But even with bears and mountain lions, humans will be on the menu if times get lean enough. So just bear that in mind when you guys go out and do some research, because it's not just the cryptids in the woods that can hurt you. Take something to protect yourself, whether it's bear spray or a firearm, or bear spray if you're not comfortable with firearms, and take a med kit. Look at Dark Angel's kits. They've got kits from everything from your basic ouch pouch first aid kit all the way up to full-blown trauma kits for yourself and your vehicle. And he also has training classes to teach you how to use those kits. So definitely check out Dark Angel Medical, because those kits could save your life or the life of somebody you care about. Doc, you got anything to throw in?
No, man, just enjoyed being here and hearing all the different viewpoints on things, and just learning more, because this has always been interesting to me, and this is a education for me, and being around some awesome folks, having some good banter. Good times, always. I
certainly agree with that. I enjoy hanging out and talking with everybody. Again, thanks to everybody. Thanks to our moderators who are patrolling the chat room, keeping things civil. We've got some great moderators, Patty, Meg, Josh. I think there's another moderator. I know my wife does it, but she generally stays pretty invisible and doesn't comment. And I've said this many times before, people. I'll say it again, and I will keep saying it. Writing is a journey that we take together. And I am amazed how far this journey has taken a farm kid from north of Lebanon, Missouri, Route 3, Lebanon, Missouri, how far this writing journey has taken me. Writing is a journey that we take together, and thank every one of you and bless every one of you for taking this journey with us. It's been an amazing ride. The last 10 years have been intense, and I can't wait to see what's next. thank you guys so much, and I hope you guys will join us this Saturday night when we will be having Leon Howarth and Nick Valente and Doc to talk about Dogman, specifically Dogman in Maine and in other places as well. But thank you guys for joining us, and I hope you guys have a wonderful night, and I will see you guys on Saturday. Good night, everybody.
Thank you for joining us tonight on DAX Machina. If you ever have an encounter of your own that you wish to discuss, contact us at daroberts@daroberts.net. You can remain completely anonymous if you wish. Pull your covers up tight and keep a nightlight burning bright. Oh, and did you forget to lock your doors?